Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. And I've come on live because, I started getting a video ready. I've woke up this morning to these two, the interviews that Phillip Schofield has finally broken his silence and he's made two interviews as far as I know. Maybe he's done others, but one with the Sun and one with the BBC. And I've woke up to that news this morning and I've watched the interviews. Now, I don't know about you, if you've what your views are on Phillip Schofield. Generally, maybe you loved him on This Morning. Maybe you thought he was great, and maybe now you don't, or maybe you still think he's great, or maybe you never liked him. Personally, he wasn't I've always felt he was false. I don't like false people. I prefer even unpleasant people if they're real. I even prefer that. I just don't like people who are false. And when you get this feeling from someone that they're saying all the right things and being really nice, but really you feel like actually they're not very nice, that's the worst thing for me. I just can't. I can't compute that sort of person because I get confused. Because I think being an empath, you sort of feel people's the vibes that they give out. And when they're giving out conflicting vibes like that they're saying one thing, but you're getting a different feeling, it's very uncomfortable to be around those sort of people because you're getting confused signals all the time. And it's exhausting to try and work out, where's the real person in there. That's why I actually do prefer difficult people as long as they are honest and genuine. I don't care what views people have, within reason, as long as they're legal. But as long as they're genuine, their feelings are genuine. I never feel that with Phillip. I'm watching these interviews this morning. I'm starting to get really angry. I mean, it's like I sort of don't care in one way because obviously I never watched This Morning. I've never rated him as a presenter. But why I care about it is it's this thing, I might have mentioned it before, it's this culture of lying and treating the public like they're a load of idiots. The politicians do. It's not only Phil that does it. Lots of famous people do it, and especially politicians do it. Treating people like they've got like they're not intelligent, really, just insulting their intelligence. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Rachel. Yes, Jennifer, I think PS is narcissistic. Exactly, this is it. So this is my point. Why is he doing this? Why is he out there still doing these interviews? Why doesn't he just keep quiet for a little while? It's like methinks he doth protest too much. He's out there saying all these things, and we're going to listen to the interviews together in a moment. I'm not showing them because I don't want copyright things, but I can play them and can listen to because it's what he says to me. Honest to God, I was a little bit speechless this morning. I'm thinking, why is he doing that? It's like he's inviting pity, isn't he? It's like everyone should feel sorry for him, and he does, manage to mention Matthew along the way. And Matthew is, of course, the victim in this, because anyway. But it's the lies that he's telling us. Well, they're just so. Does he really think that everyone's so stupid that they will believe the things he's saying? So hi Mia, let's have just a listen. First interview I want to listen to is the one he gave to the Sun. Okay, so we are just listening to it. Yeah, so we were mates, and then one day something happened that just changed it. Oh, yeah, he's saying that they were friends when so basically what he goes on saying in this interview, and we'll listen to it in a minute, he's saying that he didn't even know Matthew practically before that. That's basically what he's saying. Matthew came to work on this morning, and then they were just mates, and then suddenly one day in the dressing room something happened, and it always like that. Like, oh, just out of the blue, out of nowhere, something happened. And we know that that's rubbish, because he got him the job on this morning. It was him who got him the job, so he already knew him before he got the job. That's it's not true what he's saying, that they worked together for a while and then suddenly something happened, like some magical event. He got him that job, so he did already know him, and something had already happened. We all know that. He's treating us like idiots saying that. Anyway, let's listen to a bit more. So she says there have been accusations that you've groomed him. Well, at the end of the day, Philip's never going to turn around and say, yes, I did groom him. He's never going to say that, is he? Because that is, prison, just like that, bump. So that was a ridiculous question, really, in a way. I think I would have tried to find out more about where he first met him. And I mean, at the end of the day, when these people do these kind of interviews, they tell the interviewer the questions they can and can't ask. Wouldn't your first question be, when did you first meet Matthew? Did you know him before he worked at ITV? There's no point in saying, oh, there's allegations that you groomed him, because he's never going to say, oh, yes, well, actually, I did. So he just goes, I didn't, well, we've got to make our own mind up about that, unless something comes out later on. Sorry, just a sip of coffee. Now, the other thing is, something's happened. For him to come out and be so, do all these interviews, he must be quite confident of something. I think Matthew himself, the boy involved, to me, this is how it seems to me, is he is absolutely in love with Philip. Philip makes out through this interview and in the other interview that this casual relationship he had with Matthew, only 7 times, I think he said, that they were intimate or whatever, and it was nothing. He wasn't in love. And God, well, I'll tell you what, if that was me, I'd be fucking fuming. But it seems like Matthew is still in love with Philip. Maybe Matthew's hoping that somewhere along the line their relationship can be rekindled, but that's never going to happen, because he is not Philip's type anymore. He's too old now. This guy, and the more I look at him now, I don't know, you'll probably be able to, sorry, I'm not showing you the actual interview, but I just don't want the copyright issues. But he looks so much more like his brother now. When you look at the photos of his brother, who obviously is in prison for loving children, and his couldn't remember what the photo, what you call that, the photo that they take of you when you're arrested. He's just starting to look more and more like him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's a very difficult time for him. I'm sure he's going through a terrible time. But, he has brought this on himself. His best thing to do would just be to, just be quiet for a while. What do you think? Let me just have a look, because I'm off the thing. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Mia, they should be able to ask the questions they want to. That's the whole point of being interviewed, isn't it? When it's like with the McCann interviews, or even Paul Ansell's interview, anyone who's been interviewed, they direct the questioning, and they'll sit down before and they say, right, I'm not talking about this. If you mention this, I'm going, you know, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Hi, True Sleuth. Right, let me just have a little look at the chat before I go back. Yeah, I agree, Rachel. He's digging himself into a deeper hole. This is because I've gone from sort of being mildly annoyed with him because of treating everyone like an idiot, but it didn't really affect me because I never watched him anyway. But now I'm really sort of angry because I think it's just typical of that lying culture that we've got at the moment. That politicians, famous people, they think they can say whatever they want and people will just buy it, you know. Oh, thank you, Mia. Super sticker. Thank you. And Jennifer, you're right. First love is always hard to give up. You know, it is so difficult. Some of us, if we're lucky enough, we get to stay with our first love, you know, and things work out and that. But for most people, we don't do it. And it might be us that finish the relationship, or it might be the other person that finishes the relationship. But it strikes me, and, you know, I felt this myself when I was young. Matthew, he is in love with Philip. And at the end of the day, Matthew is the vulnerable one. He's, you know, a young lad, whether you think he was, you know, 14, 16, 18 or 20, is still young, you know, in comparison to Phil. And Phil, there's no way in my mind. Phil might have only come out a few years ago, but are you really telling me that in all that time he didn't have any relationships? Of course he did. He just came out a couple of years. He didn't just suddenly become gay a couple of years ago. He was always gay. And then he's fine that he came out because he had to. So, yeah, does he really think people are that stupid that they're going to buy all this? But anyway, let's have another listen to what he says. I did a bad thing, unprofessional, the first time. Well, I will literally eat my hat on a live stream if that was the first time. There's no way on earth that man gets to 61 years old and in all that time then suddenly decides he's going to have an affair with a 20-year-old. He's saying that the relationship only started when he was 20. Like, that is absolute. Well, the arrogance, the lies are so ridiculous. I don't really. Who's advising him? I mean, are people going to buy this? Are they? Will his fans buy this? Anyway, let's listen again. So it was the first time. It was unprofessional, but it was the first time. So he's going on to talk about Holly now. She's another one she definitely knew. I'm sure, hopefully she didn't know about the grooming, but I think she did know that Philip brought this guy to work at this morning, that they were having a relationship. She definitely knew. She's another one, you know, come on, just stop treating people like idiots. Well, if you get to watch this video, you can Google it and actually see his face. Well, doesn't look sorry to me. Put it that way. Gosh, I don't think I ever I knew he always irritated me, and I never really liked him because I felt he was false. But I'd never seen how arrogant he was before. It was the one secret in our sanctuary that was never mentioned. Oh give me a break. Right, so you can't see that, but he's saying my biggest regret was getting into a relationship at work. And as he was saying that, he was shaking his head from side to side. That's not his biggest regret. His biggest regret is getting caught. You know, he doesn't even regret, if he did groom that boy, he doesn't even regret that. He regrets the fact that he's got to sit on this sofa here and talk about this and lie about it. And he's so up himself that he just doesn't understand why he's got to do this. It's like, well, God, you know, everybody should believe me. I'm Phillip Schofield. Oh, God, I'm sorry. Yeah, he still doesn't mention his name. Notice that I apologised to him. He should apologise to him, to that boy. Right. Oh, thank you. I'm just having a look. What's this? We can't hear what you can't hear what I'm listening to. Can you not hear it? Oh, I thought you'd be able to hear it. Let me just see. Can you not hear it when I go to the maybe it might be better if I put it on my phone. You might be able to hear it better on there. Right, bear with. Gosh, you can never find things quickly, can you? Anyway, it's nearly over the actual. I'll play it and I'll tell you what he's saying. Then, sorry, I thought you would be able to hear. It's nearly over this one. This is the interview. Well, it's a bit of the interview he did with the Sun. So I'll commentate. Oh, it's literally just finished as I speak. So he just said, I want to apologise to him, meaning Matthew. Didn't mention his name, because I should have known better. Now, I think there's probably a more complete version of that video. I don't know, but I've just played. This is the one. It's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes long, I think. Let me just see. Yeah, it's 2 minutes, 6 seconds long. So first of all, I'll just recap what he says in this interview, because we're going to look at the other interviews after this. So he says he came to work on the show. We were just mates. And then one day something happened that just changed that. That's what he says. And that's the moment. So I presume it means the moment that he started, you know, the relationship with Matthew. But he goes on saying a bit, he's still saying that he didn't start this relationship with him until he was 20. So it's just not true. And then he's making out, you know, that he came to work on the show first, then the relationship started. That's not true, because we know from Eamon, don't we? Eamon Holmes was saying that, you know, taxis were going to pick up that boy from Phillip's flat. Taxis were sent from ITV to pick up the boy, you know, and he's saying it wasn't a serious relationship, that there were only 7 incidences. So he's not saying he ever lived with him or anything. So how, you know, it's just not true. It's just not true. Okay, now I'm going to go to the BBC. Morning, Jill. He is a liar. Mia is a liar. And hi, Truth Sleuth. It's the lies that are really irritating me. I just, Well, is he going to get? Do you think he's going to get away with it? Do you think this will die down? Do you think he will go on to work on TV again? Do you think people will believe these things that he's saying? Okay, I'm going to go on to the BBC interview now. And this, to be honest, I thought this one was even worse, and that one was bad enough. The arrogance of this man, because now watch what he does in this interview, and I'll read out the things that he says. He is now really throwing himself on the pity party. He's saying, you know, talking about he's thought about deleting himself. Don't people realize when they say all these things that there's a person involved? He was the biggest bitchy queen of all about everything. You know, he made Kerry Katona feel like deleting herself. He embarrassed many of his guests on his program. You know, ambushed them, ambushed David Cameron with the handed over that list of supposed child lovers that, you know, nothing, as far as I know, nothing was ever proven against him, and I don't know if they were or they weren't. But how dare he pull other people up for the very things that he did all that time when he was on that program? That's what that program is all about. It's all about gossip and, you know, doing people down and that. You know, Caroline Flack, she suffered from what people said about her, and, you know, and he's now using that, something that he's done for years. They're always all tittle-tattle on that program and laughing and making snide remarks about people. And now he because it's been done to him, he's now pulling people up for it. Don't people think about the effect, you know, the effect this has? Well, you know, it's karma. I think it's karma. I believe in karma. Right, let me just see what he says here. Oh, why is the sound not coming out? Oh my God, he's just actually said it. I think I understand how Caroline Flack felt. Now, I tell you what, I don't want him anything to happen to him. Definitely not. But I'm a bit scandalised, really, that he's using Caroline Flack and what happened to her. That, you know, he's using that to make people feel sorry for him. Anyway, these other things he does. Let me just listen a bit longer. Now he's saying that last week, if my daughters hadn't been there, so he's using his daughters as well. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just being horrible, but I do normally try and sort of really give people the benefit of the doubt. He said if his daughters wouldn't have been there, he doesn't know if he'll be here now. Now, the other thing about Philip is you don't ever see any real tears. He's looking like he's got, you know, he's sad and he's filling up, etc. But, well, I don't see any tears, but okay, let's hear what he's got to say now. They've guarded him. His daughters have guarded him. So he said it's like a weird numbness. I know that's a selfish point of view. So you just come to a point where you think, how much are you supposed to take? This is what he's saying. So he said, all those people that write all that stuff, do they ever actually think that there's a real person on the other end? This is a guy that's been on a gossip program for 20 odd years, you know, where it's all been about gossip and, you know, celebrity, etc. And now he's sort of, is it just me? Or, I mean, what does everybody think? Exactly. Caroline Flack wasn't a child groomer. She had an argument with a boyfriend and she did a bad thing. I think she threw a lamp at him or something, didn't she? She got arrested. She got arrested, for goodness sake. This is what annoys me about the police sometimes. You know, I've heard so many stories about it lately. You know, the police get called and then I don't know about Caroline's boyfriend, whether what their situation is. Probably Caroline, maybe she did throw a lamp at him or whatever she did, but she, you know, it happens so often that the man can point to the woman as being the crazy one, or we've seen it recently. I've seen it in loads of cases just recently, not only Nicola Bulley case. We still don't know what happened exactly on the 10th, do we? But in other cases, you know, the woman Emma Patterson, she was, her husband reported her to the police for assaults. And then he went on to shoot her and her daughter with a shotgun and then kill himself. I mean, come on, you know, the police have, and they arrested her when the husband reported her to the police. The police came and arrested that poor woman, and she took the blame for it. Gabby Petito took the blame for it. Quite often women do. So I don't know the full ins and outs of the Caroline Flack, of the thing that sort of started the end of it for this assault supposedly against her boyfriend. But he's referring to that. I think he's looking for sympathy. And well, I don't know what Caroline Flack's mum will think of that, because she quite often comes on, you know, she feels really angry about ITV and the way Caroline was treated. So I wonder if she'll watch that and what will she think of that? Goodness me. And like somebody just said there in the chat, Caroline Flack wasn't a child groomer. So the guy asked him, "Are you feeling strong enough to do this interview?" And he says, "Yes, I have to." He's still not crying. There is no tears. And he looks sad. He looks tired. I'm sure he's having a terrible time. But you know what? He did bring it on himself, really. But anyway, you have to forgive him for getting life. If he hasn't done anything criminal, if it turned out that this boy was 16, but he's saying the boy was 20 before any relationship started, to me, that is an absolute blatant lie. So when someone lies on one thing, they're probably lying on other things as well. And this guy's got no tears whatsoever. For whatever he says that he knows how Caroline Flack felt and this, that, and the other. He's no tears. But anyway, let's see what else happens. So it does go on then to say there's an innocent person here who hasn't done anything wrong, who is vulnerable. He's presuming he's talking about Matthew here. So at least he's got the good grace to say that, though he hasn't mentioned his name yet. So he's saying, I just want to say, leave him alone. But I don't think anybody's saying anything horrible about him, are they? I mean, you know, I think most people's sympathies are with Matthew. Now, Matthew is vulnerable, and maybe, you know, he's because obviously he won't want all this being brought out, especially if he's still in love with Philip. But it's like that's, people in the Senate, it's like that Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? That, this is what that's why it's called grooming, because you groom people. In the end, they're sort of on your side. They think you love them, and this is what groomers can do to young people. And in the end, a lot of the victims, they won't have anything said against their abusers. Quite often they're in the family, aren't they? So, oh dear, let's see. Right, so the reporters just said they're not naming the young man because he has a right to privacy, apparently, and he's not here today to defend himself. So the reporters asked him, when did you last speak to him? And he said, when I engaged the lawyer for him. He needed independent support, so he got a lawyer for him. That's not very independent, but never mind. So the reporter's trying to press him for knowing when he actually spoke to him. And he said, is that a couple of weeks ago now? And Philip just said, he sort of looked up in the air and then said, yes, a couple of weeks. He's a liar. Right, so the reporter has said, how concerned are you about his welfare right now? And Philip said, massively. This is maybe explaining things a little bit, because is Philip trying to, if Matthew, because, we don't know what's going on with Matthew, really, do we? And as he says, he's got his right to privacy, but maybe he's the one that's more like feeling like Caroline Flack felt, and maybe Philip here is covering his back so that he's come out and said some nice things. Right, so he said, the reporters asked, where did this relationship start? And he said, I was invited by a friend of mine to open a drama school, and that's where the picture was taken. So he said, oh, I can't remember if it was immediately or sometime after, but then he said, will you follow me on Twitter? Will you follow me on Twitter? And so he agreed. Yeah, that now from things I've watched, I don't think that was true. I think it was Philip who followed him on Twitter. Right. So the report said, well, he was 15 at the time. And Philip said, yes, but I follow 11,000, however many other people on Twitter. So he said, all the time I was on Twitter, there's been not even been a whiff of impropriety. Well, he knows that. That's true. That's true. There are no tweets between, well, no public tweets where he's actually, said anything wrong about him, as far as I know, anyway. So he said, how often were you in touch with him? And he said, hardly ever at all. So the boy said, according to him, he was interested in television, and he said, oh, good luck. Anything I can do to help, I probably said. So then he asked if he could visit the studios, work experience or something. I mean, honestly, is it? This is rubbish, isn't it? It is rubbish what he's saying, I think. He's twisting it completely, Rachel. So he's saying that the boy said, could he come to the studios for work experience? That's what he's saying. Right. So he's saying, the reporter asked him, how old was he then? He said he was 19 by then. Do you know? And he's still saying, oh, I said, oh, yeah, you can come and have a look if you want. You know, he's, oh, dear. Liar. Philip, stop lying. Stop lying. Right, so the reporters asked him, were you is there anything that might suggest that you were flirting with him? And Philip's saying he's been in television 41 years and there's been nothing like this before. I tell you, that things are going to come out because now people are starting to talk about him. So the reporters asked him, when you first met him in person, was there any sexual attraction? And Philip literally shaking his head and going, absolutely not. Come on, Philip. Oh my goodness, what is this? What is this about? This is just absolute bollocks, to be honest. So he's insisting, the report is quite good, this reporter. He said, how old was this lad when you first had any kind of sexual contact with him? And Philip looks off to one side and sort of thinks it's like that Little Britain character, you know, computer says no. And he says he was 20. So the reporter asked, did you have any kind of sexual contact with him of any kind while he was underage? And Phillip Schofield going, no, God, no. God, no. That's in my statement. So he'd been working at the show for a couple of months and we'd become mates. This is what he said in the other interview. They hang out together, chat to each other. And then in his dressing room one day, something happened. Somebody walked in on him. That's what happened, probably. I will regret it forever for him and for me. It happened 4 or 5 times over the next few months. Do you think somebody walked in on him? You know, maybe that's how it all came out in the end. I don't know. Or maybe just, I think, you know what I personally think, I just think he thought he was so powerful. You know, there was just, he just got, what's the word he got? He didn't keep his eye on the ball, if you pardon the expression. He sort of dropped the ball and he wasn't careful enough in the end, and he got sort of a bit leery about it. And of course, then Matthew got older. And he started getting his own opinions and his own thoughts. He's just, he fell in love with Philip, and it all ended up in that big argument they had at the TV awards or whatever. I know it's unforgivable. We weren't boyfriends. We weren't in a relationship. I was confused with my own sexuality at the time. It just happened. How old is he? So this report is quite often asked him how old, and he's saying 21 then. So he asked him who knew about it. Philip saying nobody. Nobody knew about it. But he says somebody must have known something because for there to become a rumour later on. But I didn't think that anybody knew. But Holly knew. So I like this reporter because he's just asking the questions. Like I was saying what Holly knew, and then he literally just turned around to Philip and said, "Did Holly Willoughby know?" And Philip's gone, "God no, God no." So he's saying that their makeup room is a sanctuary and has always been a sanctuary. We tell each other everything. Holly knows everything about me, and I know everything about Holly in that room, in that makeup room, that sanctuary. But she didn't know about this. So this reporter, which I don't, what's his name? Let's see. He's very good. He's definitely, I can't find his name anywhere. Amal Rajan. Very good in the questions he's asking, much more thorough than in the Sun interview. So he said this is important because this is about an abuse of power. Oh, so that was very good point that he just said. He said, let's quote, let's say what's happened here. You met a child, you built up a relationship with a child who later you got them a job, and then later you started a sexual relationship with them. So even if it was over the legal age by the time the sexual relationship happened, many would call that grooming. It's true, isn't it? Because even if it's not until the boy was 20, which I don't believe for a minute, but let's suppose what Philip's saying is true, and before anything actually happened between him and Matthew, he was 20. But he met him when he was 15, and that is grooming. He's groomed, even though he's an adult by the time something happens, it's still grooming, really. So he's denying that. He's saying that it wasn't like that. That was just one photo that was taken of him with the boy. The Twitter follow was just innocent, so it wasn't grooming. Completely innocent, Philip said. Yeah, so he's not having that. In fact, he's getting a bit testy now, and all the signs of stress and emotion have completely disappeared because now he's a bit pissed off because the reporter's not actually going along with his narrative. So he's asking about the NDA now. He says he didn't make him sign an NDA. Just everything. He's like one of those. How do you know when Phillip Schofield's lying? When his his lips are moving. So the reporter's asking, was he paid for his silence? He's going, God, no. That's his stock answer, isn't it? God, no. That's what he said. Did Holly know? God, no. You know, did you groom him? God, no. You know, it's like that's his. So he's just said that he's not spoke to this boy for a couple of weeks, and now he's saying what this boy wants. What this boy wants is for it all to go away. So how does he know that? Because if he's not spoken to him for a couple of weeks, how does he even know that? Because it's not even been a couple of weeks since it all came out. So he's asked, the reporter has said, can you just confirm for me then that you're paying for his legal advice and support? And Phillip has confirmed that, nodded and said yes. So he asked him, is there any injunction? Again, he asked him, is there any injunction or NDA? And Phillip has shook his head and said no. He almost said God no, but his eyes go all. He didn't say God no this time. He just said no, but his eyes like go indignant, you know. So the guy said to him, why is it all coming out now, Phillip? What was the catalyst? And he says that the lie got too big for both of us. The lie got too big for both of us. It got enormous, growing, growing, and growing. And it crossed over from online to mainstream news. So he's talking about the reporters asking about ITV now that they made this investigation and was told by Phillip and the young man, because nobody's mentioning his name, bless him, but that there was no relationship. So when ITV did their investigation, you know, how big the investigation was, I don't know. He's saying that they were told there was no relationship. And he's asking, was it a sham? And Philip says, well, when you have two people that are lying, what can you do? So then the reporter says, what, did they just phone you and then just phone him and say, was there a relationship going on? And Philip says, well, I think they asked me a couple of times and I think they asked him a couple of times. It wasn't a formal investigation. His biggest, sorriest secret. Now, the guy's going on now to ask him again, when did you last speak to him? He's very clever, this guy, because what he does is he asks the question, gets whatever answer Philip gives him, and then later on he asks it again. Oh, no, he's asking about Holly. So he sort of skirted around that question, and he just repeated what he'd said in the other interview, that he said, I know you can't probably reply to this text. You're probably not allowed to, but I want you to know I'm deeply, deeply sorry. So, right, sorry, I missed quite a bit of chat there because I was on the interview. Right, let me go down to... Oh, well, I don't think I'll get sued. Well, maybe I will. Well, what they're going to do is to let them sue me, then I'm not saying it. I'm not saying I don't know what happened. I'm just playing the interview, telling you what he says and what I think, whether I believe him or not, which unfortunately I don't believe him. And I do think he is taking the mickey out of his own public. And this is what's the thing is, anyone who's in the public eye, including me, or including, I mean, I'm not in the public eye like he is, but you know, I have a YouTube channel, I have my chatters, I have my subscribers. And once you know, if I was on here not being real with you, like just talking a load of rubbish, I mean, I do talk a load of rubbish, I know, but at least it's from the heart. You know, I'm not, you know, telling you a load of lies. If I was on here saying, oh, yes, I know for certain that he'd done this with this, but I don't know. I'm just playing you, I'm just going over an interview that he did and saying what I think of it, whether I think it's true or I don't think it's true. I'm not actually telling you like, oh, I don't know, the moon is red, or, you know, I'm not misinforming you. I'm just giving my opinions about things. And, you know, if you do start doing that to your followers, whoever they may be, you could have 10 followers, you could have 10 million followers. You can be on TV, you can be a politician, whoever. If you're in the public eye and then you start taking the people that are watching you, the people that have really made you whatever you are. You know, Phillip Schofield is a TV presenter. He's never been anything else. You know, he's not gone into TV after having a successful career in something else and made his, you know, money another way. He's a TV presenter. That's all he's ever done. So he relies on his popularity with the public. The public have given him everything, and now he's treating them like idiots. That's the way I look at it. So he's turning around and just treating people like fools. There'll be people. There'll be some people who really like him, some people who don't like him, some people that are totally ambivalent about him. But the ones that really like him, there'll be a lot of them questioning now. You know, there'll be some still with blind loyalty towards him, but to me, is just that way is just what I would take from those interviews that I've just looked at, and hopefully you got the gist of what I was saying. Is the way he's just trying to. Do you know what it reminds me of? That interview reminds me of the Prince Andrew interview. You know, done the interview because he thought it'd be and Prince Andrew did that interview against advice. You know, he was told not to do the interview, and of course Emily Maitlis, she just wiped the floor with him. If you go on an interview with a clever reporter, like a clever interviewer, like that guy was as well, you're not going to come off well. You just better. Why did they? This is what I don't understand. Why is he even saying anything? Is that his arrogance? Why is he even saying anything? Why doesn't he just let it die down? But he's going on, and every time he comes out and says one of those things like, oh, it started when he was 20, or there'll be someone somewhere who knows that that's not true. There'll probably be a lot of people that know that that's not true. And even if the boy himself has been bought off in some way and he doesn't, you know, actually admit to anything, there'll be lots of people who know that's not true. Lots of other people. because he was, you know, he did go out with it. I mean, we've got that. Did you see the clip on YouTube? I think it was with that YouTuber Jack Jones, and he had taken a photo in the restaurant when Philip was there on his own with this boy. So Philip's saying, "Oh, he's only seen this boy a couple of times, and it was all to do with this and that." And he's got a photo. Well, a video, because he did the video deliberately. He saw Philip in the restaurant with the young boy, and he posed a video in front of him saying that he had 1,000 subscribers or something, or 1 million subscribers, and, you know, took the video, and Philip was there in the corner with the young boy. So why does he think everybody's so stupid that they don't see all these things? But anyway, yes, Claire, I agree. I think he's making it much worse for himself. And Catherine, hi. What, you can't hear me? You wouldn't have been able to hear Philip. That didn't work out. Actually listening to, but I don't want to get stung for copyright and that. And I can avoid it, but I have to download the video, I have to clip it and do things. And it just would have took so long. I just thought, oh, I'm just going on live stream and get this out. You know what I'm like, I have to get things out of my system when I get angry about things. But well, that's right. And you can't sue for hurt feelings, but also you can't sue someone for having an opinion. If I sat here and said, oh, I don't know, what could you sue someone for? I can say I think this happened, but I suppose you could sue someone who you thought, if you said something definitely had happened. I'm just musing about it. I'm just inquiring about listening to his interview, seeing what you all think. And we're talking about what we think. We're not saying facts. We're not saying it's a fact that he's a child lover. We're saying there's a feeling coming over, a general feeling coming over. And he's perpetuating the story, really. Him doing those 2 interviews today, in my eyes, have perpetuated a story that if he would just have left it and disappeared into the background, eventually it would have died down, because these stories do. But then we've got the ITV have got to answer questions in Parliament. I mean, that's really unusual, isn't it? Why have ITV got to go to answer questions in Parliament about this? You know, this is what I mean. This is a story that is not going to stop. It's going to go on and on and on. And I think Philip, he might say he's like the wronged one. That's what he felt like he was trying to say in there, that don't people realise that there are real people at the end of these stories, and he hasn't cared about real people for years. He's done loads of stories on people, and well, one story, of course, keep me thinking I'm going to do a video on that, was the story about Ben, the father who wanted to get his daughter back. They went on this morning, didn't they, he went on there to try and get his daughter Ellie back, that he'd been accused of abusing, and he was given a platform. And this is making me angry now. I'm getting really angry. Maybe that's why I'll never do a video on it, because I'll probably be too angry and get too upset. So this morning gave him a platform. Why, I don't know, to talk about getting his daughter back. He got his daughter back, and then he murdered her. So little Ellie was murdered. So they're having a few jokes there in the chat about getting violins out for Philip. Do you know, I think this is a bit of a karma that's happening for Philip. He's you know, as I say, gossip, talked about, not give a shit basically about people for a long time, and now suddenly he's throwing all this up that we should all feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for his daughters. For his wife, though, I don't know how much she knew about everything. His mother, who's not only got one son in prison for loving children, now she's got another one sort of with aspersions cast, but nothing, you know, nobody's, nothing, he's not been charged with anything. So we'll see. We'll see. Much more to come out. And it'll keep, he's giving people food, really. If you don't feed the press, you know, and then I suppose fruit from what we, you know, YouTubers and social media people. And believe me, if you think I'm a bit down on him, you want to watch some of the other channels. I mean, my God, you know, what I say about him is absolutely nothing in comparison. So we'll see. I don't know, because there's another boy as well, isn't there? There's another boy, supposedly, but again, nothing's come out, so I can't, allegedly, unless I actually found something factual out about that, I won't be able to really talk about that. So, well, ladies, thank you for being here with me this morning, and men, if there's any men out there as well, it's probably a mixture, but thank you so much. And yeah, as always, let me know what you think. Hi, Maria. Yeah, what goes around comes around. I do think this is a bit of karma here that Philip's experiencing. Now, for those of you who follow my live streams on a Friday, remember we're going to be looking at some Emma White interviews later on tonight at 7 o'clock European time, 6 o'clock English time. Karma's a bitch, it certainly is. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully I'll see you tonight. If not, I'll see you very soon. Remember to always live and love very carefully. Thank you for the super sticker, Mia. And I will see you very soon in the next video. And until then, may your gods all go with you. Thank you.